Howdy folks, my name is Darren Fonzseau, and I'd like to talk to you today about workers' compensation, or labor and industries as we call it here in the state of Washington, and my Democratic Party, and how that Democratic Party is not representing labor nor injured workers across America today. Not just injured workers in Washington state, but all of us. We need our Democrats to stand up and fight for us, and fight for the minimum federal oversight Senator Sanders and Patty Murray told us we need to stop a class war on injured workers done through bad state laws. State laws that need some minimum federal oversight to rein them in so that we're not having a class war waged on America's injured workers across this country. And today's topic is going to be about the Washington State Democratic PCOs. We call them like precinct captains or precinct officers. They're supposed to get the people's voices heard to the Dem Party. That's how we're supposed to take our stuff to them, and then they take it to the party, and then you know, like the old Schoolhouse Rock video used to show. We the people take our problems to our lawmakers, and then our lawmakers then fix that problem for us. Well, that's not happening here in the state of Washington, and actually quite the opposite. The Democratic Party and its one of its PCOs, Democratic PCOs, also works for the state L&I as a processor. So this lady, Tracey is a Democratic PCO and also a Washington State L&I employee who tells our Democratic Party nothing's wrong with our state WorkComp system, nothing's wrong with L&I, all is fine. That needs to stop. Aside from, she's just like a plant in the state Dem Party. It's like L&I's little plant into our Dem Party, and telling us, no, nothing's wrong. Don't listen to 400 injured farm workers or Darren Fonzseau, who has a pension and proved his facts that his mental health was harmed by a broken state system not taking care of injured workers as it's supposed to be, and harming their mental health in the process, instead of just giving us our band-aids out the gate to start with, because we have processors like and adjusters like Tracey who stand in our way and intently harm us, and then have immunity for any harm they do in the process, even if we win in our appeals and prove people like her were lying and using doctors to lie to deny us and harm us. So when we have a PCO in the Democratic Party, and her and Jason Call is another PCO, one of my local PCOs, she's out of Thurston County, but Jason Call, my local PCR, said he was going to try and get us some help, and he'd come back to me and said, no, we can only get you a state fix, and he hasn't even worked on that state fix of a state ombudsman. But we can't get your federal oversight on the table that Senator Sanders and Patty Murray told us all of the injured workers in America we need to stop a class war on us. So when your PCOs, Democratic PCOs, seem to be working for the bizman, and Jason Call also works for my union. Both of these people are part of my union, and that's another problem that I'm having, the Washington State Federation of Employees Association. Jason Carlos is a state employee. Tracey Carlos is a state employee, so we were part of the same union. I was a state employee at the University of Washington. And Jason Call is a teacher in our state, so he's a state employee who is also part of the same union. And so when these members of Democrats of my own party can't come out and tell us the truth, and our union members like Larry Brown can't come out and tell us the truth, or they do tell us the truth and they use our injured workers' grief just to sell us other solutions other than the needed minimum federal oversight, our own leaders at the top told us needs to be done to stop a class war, then it's our own party and these precinct captains at the bottom who are the blocks to America's injured workers getting justice we need. It's the Dem Party we need to wake up, because we know the other party created this shit. It's our sellout Democrats that are aiding and abetting the other side to wage a class war on labor on sniffs and grins and at will. All because the state of Washington has declared a war on cumulative trauma. On-the-job injuries. They don't want to pay for your herniated disc or your torn carpal tunnel syndrome, on and on. The non-catastrophic OJIs. They'll cheat you out of them and cheat you out of the Band-Aid intently, so you'll give up on that Band-Aid. And they're driving people crazy in the process. So people like Tracey Carlos are part of the problem here in the state of Washington. Her job and then her job as a PCO both aren't representing us. And I'm sorry, when Democrats in the state of Washington are going to take their marching orders and their direction and their cues from an L&I state employee adjuster and take her word over 400 injured state farm workers. And the Seattle Times, there was a big write-up about it. Those injured workers, it's hard for us injured workers to get people to report the harm done to us. Here those injured workers finally prevailed and get somebody to hear their voices, and our state Dem Party intently is choosing to silence their voices rather than report the harm to injured workers in our state. And it's people like Tracey Carlos and Jason Call who are standing in the way of injured workers in America getting justice and our shit on the table, along with any of the other solutions they have for our social ills. Don't tell us, well, we can't. That's another thing. I won't get into that. But I do have some progressives, and I've recorded them telling me, progressive journalists telling me our Democratic progressive candidates like Tyler Vega and their Bernie appointees cannot get honest about class war and injured workers. Gee, if we get honest about that, our people won't get elected, Darren. And first we got to get them, and then we can address your issue. But yet we can address all these other issues before they get in. We can talk about all these other pie-in-the-sky ideals we have from our side, but yet to stop the war on injured workers and some minimum federal standards, like we fight for a minimum federal wage. We can't do that for the injured workers of America. And 400 injured workers, 400 injured farm workers in the state of Washington crying out. And what did State Representative Ortiz Self, the Latino Civic Alliance, Lieutenant Governor Habib, and CMAR, my mental health team, all were going to Latino Legislative Day, not to tell us about the harm to 400 farm workers, but to have a WorkComp attorney come and tell them all that Latinos need not fear reporting our on-the-job injuries, and that's just not true. Every injured worker in the state of Washington and across America has to fear reporting your on-the-job injuries today, because you have to fear being put through WorkComp hell. And to not tell us the truth on Legislative Latino Day about the harm to 400 injured farm workers is disgraceful at this point for the Democratic Party. I'm ashamed to say that I voted Democrat for 30 years. And now that same Democratic apparatus in the state of Washington is pursuing a malicious prosecution against me, an injured worker in the state with mental health conditions that they brought on themselves with their class war and my health care. I'm a pensioner, and I got an SSDI. I proved that they harm me. I prove I have mental health conditions, and yet the state of Washington and its prosecutors out of Thurston County, where Tracey Carlos works and LNI is, have chosen to charge me with, I had a psychotic break where I called my judge and screamed bloody murder at him 10 times one morning. On like a Sunday morning or something, just screaming and yelling bloody murder, you motherfuckers, for ripping me off and putting me through hell for 7 years and working my father-in-law to death at Walmart. Sedgwick and the state all worked him to death rather than trying to tell a man that everybody knew was dying to go home and prepare for the end of your life. Instead, they were all sending him to climb ladders at Walmart, where he died and had a heart attack after one of his last shifts. No, the Democrats in the state of Washington, Jason Call and Ortiz Self. And that's the other thing. That's what just burns me the most. Lillian Ortiz Self, representing state lawmaker Ortiz Self, and the Latino Civic Alliance and CMAR all conspired to spin the narrative that 400 injured farm workers are not being hurt and that Latinos don't need to fear reporting their injuries. So when the Dem Party intently lies and covers up and will try and silence 400 injured farm workers in our state rather than representing them and getting the solution on the table that Senator Sanders and Patty Murray told us we need, then this is why the Democratic Party is failing America today. Democratic Party that is sold out and will listen to Tracey Carlos, LNI, state employee, processor, adjuster, or whatever she is, gets to be our PCO and gets to say, don't listen to Darren Fonzseau, injured worker who won his pension. He's crazy. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to 400 injured farm workers or the Seattle Times that must have had to prove or verify this. And also, those 400 injured farm workers are filing complaints through our I don't know if it's civil or criminal court systems. They are taking those complaints of discrimination against Latinos and Latino injured farm workers in our state, and they're taking it to the courts because the Democrats are failing to step up and represent us. So yes, you're going to hear something here pretty soon. Whether they win their cases or not, I don't know, but the fact that they have to go adjudicate because Democrats intently spin the narrative to say nobody's being harmed when people are being harmed, then they need to, that's why this Dem Party needs a gut check. And that's what I'm here to do. And I'm giving it to you, and you better be thankful it's me and not one of the other fuckers that can't control it as well as I am. My Democrats need to wake the fuck up. The victims, the injured workers across America, we are awake now, and we see our Democratic Party intently lying to us. And when Senator Sanders can use our injured workers' grief to push for $15 an hour for the Amazon injured workers, and Shannon Allen will only want to use her injured workers' grief to push for rank and file committees at Amazon, well, neither one of them will talk about Senator Sanders or Shannon Allen, injured worker. Neither one of them will talk about the minimum federal oversight we need on the table. And she gets mad at Senator Sanders because he just used her to push for $15 an hour when she wants to push a Republican rank and file committee only at Amazon and call it a socialist movement. That's a whole another video. Today's video was raised basically about how Washington State Democratic PCOs are intently fucking and killing injured workers in America and our grand bargain with ignorant, arrogant deceit at this point. Have a good day. Vote Dem, but clean house before you vote Dem.